people had died. If there was no dog, 24% of the people had died after 12 months after their heart attack. And we change our body chemistry also with the relationship, the petting, all those things just make a difference. And
well, and even on a more literal level, animals are known to lower the blood pressure of a person while they're being petted by that person. So I worked at a big nursing home for a while, and I did a little presentation about therapy dogs and asked the 7 or 8 therapy dogs we had working there to come. And I had a bunch of nurses and my PT assistants running around doing blood pressure checks on people who had a dog next to them while I was blabbing for 20 minutes. And we saw like 80-point drops in the top number in their blood pressure while they had been sitting with the dog. And the nurses couldn't believe it. I mean, some of these guys had really difficult to regulate blood pressure. And it's just amazing the health benefits of being with an animal.
Yeah, I used to take Miracle everywhere. She lived to be 20. Had a reaction to some medication for her thyroid and died from the medication. She might have lived to be 100, as far as I know. But I used to take her everywhere, and I could see the change in people when you went through a nursing home. People with Alzheimer's, you put Miracle in their lap, and suddenly their eyes focused, and it was like they came back to life again, And it was just so obvious what an effect the pet had in their lap. And I don't know if I ever told you that I entered Miracle in a dog show because she was so like a dog in her behavior.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And she got so much attention. Well, first the people told me this is a dog show. I said, yeah, she thinks she's a dog. I didn't want her to be upset. So, and all the dogs, of course, came running over to her, like, what is this thing? But she sat there totally independent, rubbing noses with 200-pound dogs. And the next year, though, that's the part I love most of all. The next year, the sign for the dog show said at the bottom, dog show for dogs only. And I know they were saying, Siegel, stay out of here.
Bring Buddy, not your cat. Well, my mom's even gone to nursing homes with her miniature horse, and it's kind of interesting. Like, Lucky seems to know what's going on. There's pictures of this in my book, and she would walk up the steps into these places, and when we first got her when she was 2, I was doing TTouch with my niece who was 7 or something, and she wanted to learn to do some basic things with her. It was her new Christmas present. And so we had this idea, my niece had the idea that she wanted to get the horse into the kitchen to surprise my sister for Christmas breakfast. And there were like 15 steep steps in the garage up to the house. And I said, well, Gwen, you're going to have to teach her to walk up the steps. And I told her what to do, but I honestly, in the back of my mind, thought there's no way in heck she's going to get that horse up the stairs. And being not skeptical like me and having a clear picture, that pony walked right up the steps and into the kitchen. And I remember my sister turned to her husband and said something like, honey, don't look now, but there's a horse in the kitchen. And so because of that, she was just always great going in buildings, and she never did any accidents in buildings, and she would walk up the stairs, and she would go, like you said, other animals do, right up to some person that really needed a horse, and she would rest her head on their laps in their wheelchairs. And I'll never forget one woman was saying, oh, my God, there's a horse in here. He's so big. And my mom's miniature horse is smaller than a St. Bernard. So it was so funny that this woman knew it was a horse and thought it must be huge. But Lucky was a great, great therapy animal, and she still is. She's about 20 now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And the nursing home didn't mind. I mean, I know some of them are open to the norm for dogs, but even though the horse was miniature, they embraced that.
Well, I'll tell you, my family is a little like Bernie in his neighborhood. They all know we're nuts, and they just don't bother us when we go. We were going to visit my grandfather there, and my mom was like, well, let's bring the Mini. So we just walked in with a lot of animals.
Because we broke every zoning law. I mean, when I said the Siegel Zoo, I didn't tell you about all the creatures we had, from skunks to exotic pets to all kinds of creatures. And people would say, oh, you have a farm. No, I have an acre and a half with a fence around it so nobody can run away. But everybody knew we were doing it because we loved these creatures. So nobody called the police or the town and said, Siegel's breaking all the rules. He's got all these crazy creatures. They all enjoyed it and had their kids come over here to learn about animals and love them. too.
Right. Who wouldn't want a petting zoo right in their neighborhood?
Yeah. But it was, I'm laughing again. I did portrait painting, and it helped me relax after coming home from the hospital. So I would paint one of the pets or a child, and one afternoon I came home, and every creature was running out of the house, kids and animals. And I knew they were saying, I'm not going to sit still and have a painting again. So I put up a mirror and painted myself. But as soon as I said to them, all right, I'm putting a mirror up, like in my head, they all came running back because they knew they couldn't sit still. But that's what impresses you over and over. They know when you're coming home. They know what you're thinking. And, to keep talking to them. Oh, I mentioned, Buddy. I got to add this story. When I took him home from the shelter, he jumped out of the car when I stopped for gas. And we had a hell of a time, catching him. Because I was shouting to people, I've only had him 5 minutes. He doesn't. So all the traffic stopped. Everybody got him back in the car. When we got home, in my mind, while he was sitting in the car, I said to him, why did you do that? He said, I belong to a couple. The wife was very nice. The husband was an alcoholic. And when he came home from work, the wife would say, take the dog for a walk. And he'd put me in the car and drive to the bar and go in there drinking, leave me locked in the car, and then abuse me when he came out. I never want to be in a car again. I said, I would never treat you that way. I love you. 2 weeks later, I came out of Stop and Shop, and I looked at the car, and the side door was open on the minivan. I must have hit the button as I was walking away. And I thought, well, he's gone. No, he was sitting in the open car. He knew I loved him and cared about him. And and I'm laughing because the other dog, Furphy.
My Furphy, I love him.
Yeah. So I went into Stop and Shop because I knew Furphy's always looking for me. And sure enough, he was in Stop and Shop with the security officer and, giving him treats and things. So I got him and took him home. But you could tell Buddy was speaking the truth to me. Because in the house, and you'd say, come here, he'd back up. Every time you'd say, come here, you want to give him a treat, or he'd back up. And if you picked up a stick when you were going for a walk, it's like something fell off the tree, he would cringe. You're going to beat me. It took him many months to get over the way he had been treated by that man. But,
Yeah, well, he found the perfect home with you, for sure.
Yeah.
Your story reminds me of my dog Winston when I was working at the boarding school. He always wanted to be with me. He was supposed to be for me and my ex-husband. We actually ended up getting him his own corgi named Molly. But Winston was my dog, and he just did not want to be away from me. And so he would break out of the apartment. Sometimes a student would come to the door, and Winston would sneak out. And so it was about a half-mile walk up to the main school building from our apartment. And he would run around the school building looking for me, and the dean of students or the dean of faculty would capture him and take him to their office. And Winston probably had about 20 demerits by the end of the school year for being out without a hall pass. And we all thought it was funny, but people at the school were really mad. And eventually they just said, all right, Sally can have Winston in her classroom because it's a lot easier than trying to track him down.
Because I was out giving a workshop, and then they broke for lunch. And they said to me, the dog can't come in. So I went around the back door to the building and went in and left Murphy outside. Because, I could go in the post office. People would say, there's a dog outside. I said, yeah, he's waiting for me. But about 15 minutes later, one of the waiters came walking through the, restaurant saying, whose dog is this? I said, it's mine. What's going on? He said, he came in the front door. And I said, I left him at the back, so he came around the building, up a flight of stairs, coming in looking for me. And so he said, all right, he can stay.
It's so funny because I used to leave Winston when I was shopping in downtown Northampton. I would go into the CVS and I'd just say, sit and wait, and he would wait. And I can't believe I would do this now, 30 years later, but there was another dog that I used to see all the time waiting next to Winston. It was this Australian Shepherd named Alice. I looked at her tag. Well, lo and behold, here I am 30 years later, and I meet Alice's owner. We work together now for grading teacher exams. He's a writer, too, and he wrote a book about Alice and also mentioned that he knew Winston was sitting there. And I said, isn't that funny? Our dogs are talking about us all that time, and it took us 30 years to meet to talk about our dogs. But neither of us trained them to do that. We just say, please wait for me. I'll be out in 5 minutes, and they would wait.
Yeah, there was another
what a beautiful way to end the show.
All right.
Any parting words, Bernie?
No, I was just going to say this study was done showing that this dog knew when his owner was coming home from work. It was just amazing how intuitive, again, it proved it. But whether she took a bus or a truck or a taxi or a bicycle and came at different times, he always went to the front door like 5 minutes before she arrived.
Rupert Sheldrake did plenty of studies on horses, dogs, and cats.
The one, I think, that did that.
Yeah, and he did inexplicable things, and the dogs were always there.
Right. So, get a dog, folks.
That's the message. Get a dog.
Live long and be happy. Find a dog.
Name it after us. All right. Okay. Then you can yell.
Thank you, Sally.
Sally.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Bernie.
All right. Bless you. Good to see you.
Bless you.
Again. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Join us next time on Mind Health Matters with Dr. Bernie Siegel. Until then, remember, be fully engaged in life, loving every moment as your unique self. In going deep within to discover ourselves, we can also discover self-love. Then, when we let our hearts make up our minds, we connect what our bodies do so well to the power of love. We can boost our ability to grow and heal along with our self-esteem. The sense of empowerment that results from this mind-body connection is one related to self-induced healing. When you add spirit to that connection, making a mind-body-spirit connection, you nourish your soul. For more insight, go to BernieSiegelMD.com.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.